Hello, and welcome back. Uh, Maybe today's just been a little bit of a rough day, but I don't necessarily. I mean, this is a learning box. All right, so I learned a couple things off of this. So let's get right to it. This box is called Twiggy. I didn't really use Metasploit. I used a little bit, but it didn't work. So let's not worry about that. We're going to start with our end map, which is over on my other screen here. That'll take a minute. It's going to return quite a few ports, which is interesting. It's very interesting to investigate that. It's going to give us SSH, which is useless, DNS, which is useless, port 80, which has stuff running on Mezzanine and Django, which is useless. Has HTTP Nginx running on port 8000, which is useless. Mostly, it's a little bit useful to point us in the right direction, but it also has one thing running 0MQ, basically, running on port 4505 and 4506, which uses the SaltStack API. So that's a lot. I just went in lots of directions with that. So, Nmap is going to finish. Let me show you the critical path. One thing I learned, which I maybe should have realized already, is that for any web service, I need to be running a curl V for that, for basically the main web page, just to see what it's doing. On the last 2 or 3 boxes that I've done between here and Hack the Box, I should have done that. So that's going to be, I think I'm going to develop like a simple enumeration script, just so I can automate doing the simple stuff. And I'll probably get more stuff to add to that as I go, but I need to at least make a checklist and get a rudimentary script going. So anyways, curl v twiggy.local. And I made a mistake. It needs to be port 8000. There, that's what we want. Now let me show you real fast what you get if you don't do the verbose version. That might be something. It shows you like a little Java. I don't know what I'm saying. It gives you something that looks like this. It's just that. It's like a list of users, processes, whatever. And you might think it's a red herring, but it's just nothing. When we look at the verbose version, we see what it's communicating with. We see this one header, which it really tells us all we need to know. If you Google Salt API 3000, you just start typing that, Google will auto-complete it for exploit. And then you get the exploit and you download it. It's written in Python. And when you first go to run it, it will have a bit of an error. Let me see if I can scroll back up to where the error was. I ran it in a couple stupid ways. Let's see, that's back in the env. How's that? Doesn't matter too much. So the first thing that disappoints me was just the jump I needed to make I wouldn't have known about. So the leap is running Python in like a virtual environment. Something I probably learned about a long time ago, but definitely didn't remember. So once I installed Python 3 virtual environment, then I got to run it as Python 3 module virtual environment, and then env, whatever that means. I'm going to learn this, just not today. And finally, you say in this directory, I guess activate the environment. And then inside that virtual environment, you install the Salt distro. And that installs the libraries and stuff that you need to use. Now, luckily, if I had run the exploit from here, that actually would have worked, because the next part of the walkthrough, which I had to eventually consult, it calls for some stuff that assumes that we're using like Python 3.7 or 3.8, but I'm using 3.9. So it's super happy compatible with whatever's going on here. So we're almost done. You see this last command I have. Well, the first ones I started with were even more fun. I started with stuff like this. You notice I have like -H, which I thought meant host, and then I was like, M is master, but that's the host, and there's a host port. There's the execution script. H stands for help, so when I was executing it, it just printed the help. As you can see, I was like, why is it doing that? I'm doing it right. So then finally, I broke it down, and I was like, all right, let's just look at master twiggy.local, and I found the root key, which I had already obtained from Metasploit. That's how I kind of knew that it was going to work, or maybe I got it from another terminal here. But then I was like, okay, let's just make sure we're connecting to the right port, and then let's see, is that the right one? I think so. And we get the netcat listener running on 4505, just because, I guess. And then we do it. Now what's fun, you see, is that it just schedules the job. So actually the first time I ran the script, it was to the wrong IP address. But since it scheduled it, I was like, oh, I'm just going to run it again. And yeah, I ran it again and it came over. So that's really a really fun thing that I may have been able to figure out on my own. I just need to, my initial enumeration needs to be a bit better so that, you know, I had a pretty decent base of enumeration from here. And, you know, it still didn't get me over the top with really making me at least be able to try harder and get it. There's still that jump I wasn't getting. So we'll see next time. Plenty of boxes left.